What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode number 15 of the RUDIS Wrestling Podcast. Matt, what's going on in Ohio?
Ben, how's it going?
Uh,
Just another December day, I guess we're getting ready for the Ironman this week, right?
oh, yeah.
Big high school kickoff for the year.
Yeah, that's like a big thing. But, I was in Wisconsin, and so that wasn't really like, Flow didn't exist when I was in high school. There wasn't really too many websites that cover wrestling. So it was kind of, um, I knew it existed, but it wasn't a big thing to me, even though now I recognize how big of a thing it is. But because of the Wisconsin travel restrictions, none of our people really go. So I don't really pay that much attention to it. But I know as far as Ohio and the East Coast is concerned, it's a big, big deal.
Yeah, I mean it's arguably one of the top 3 high school tournaments in the country. I think this year um, marks the 25th anniversary
Yeah.
of of the Ironman. So this along with what would you say, Beast and a number of other tournaments really go a long way into determining the number 1 high school team in the country
Yeah.
to
So let me
earn
ask you,
the.
let me ask you this, Matt. I know I get that it's tradition. Why don't they move it to a bigger gym? Every time I watch those videos and everyone's all packed on top of each other, I'm always like, why don't they just do a bigger gym?
I mean, it makes sense, right? I don't know if they're bound by tradition or what, or the history of the event being at Walsh Jesuit High School. At the time the event was founded, I believe that's when Walsh Jesuit was in its heyday, winning state titles year in and year out, winning national titles. Um, so I don't know if they're just bound by tradition or it's always been there, but yeah, I mean, it could definitely be moved into a bigger venue for sure.
Yeah, did you wrestle it in the Ironman or no?
No, I predate the Ironman.
Oh, okay, I wasn't sure if there was a crossover there by a couple years or not.
No, close, but I just missed it.
Okay, cool. That's obviously one of the biggest high school tournaments in the country. Let's get into the biggest college tournament in the country, and I think it is this year. It's usually pretty close to an it and scuffle, but the CKLV happened last weekend, and there's so much that went on. Like you said, yeah, you said it yesterday. There was good matches all the way from the round of 16. I mean, geez. So I mean, Matt, first overall takeaways, and then maybe we just kind of run through bracket by bracket and talk about the good important matches. But what are your overall takeaways from this tournament?
Yeah, overall, number one, I don't think there's really. I know there's a yearly debate about what's the best in-season college tournament, but with over 100 of the top 200 ranked wrestlers in the country being in competing at the event, I think it's pretty clear. There's a little bit of a separating point, I think, between Las Vegas and Midlands and the scuffle as far as
Yeah.
depth and quality goes.
Yeah, I
But
I would agree with that for sure.
yeah, and number two, I think the team race was a little. I think we mentioned this the other
Yep.
day that the team race was kind of, it wasn't watered down. That's not the right
Well,
depiction of it. But a number of the top teams had a number of individuals out, so it kind of took some of the conversation away from the team race that Ohio State created some separation. But
yeah.
as far as individual performances go, I mean, I don't even know where we start. I guess the
Well,
best way is
I think the hard thing, Matt, is that we talked about four of the top 5 teams weren't here in Vegas. And then you look at it between the weight classes, I want to say it was I don't know that any of the top ranked individuals. Let me see. No, Chenzo, Valencia, Miles Martin would be the only. Miles and Gable. So 2 of the top number 1 ranked wrestlers wrestled. So although we had a supreme amount of depth, unfortunately we didn't have a lot of those number ones out there. And I think that does, and I would still say it's the toughest tournament in the country, but I think that still does take a little bit away from the tournament. And obviously, those number ones, those guys draw the most interest, intrigue, and fascinating matchups. And so we didn't have a lot of those guys. Obviously, Iowa doesn't go, South Dakota State doesn't go. Yanni was hurt. Princeton doesn't go. Penn State's got what 4 number ones right now, so them not going that really, and they don't really. Well, they're going to Scuffle this year, so we're going to see them there. But that
Yeah, they
really hurts.
typically go to the Scuffle. Yeah, at Iowa, Okie State, right?
Yep.
So, the majority of the top 5 wasn't in attendance, but the majority of the top individuals, I would say from 2 through 8, there was a collection of in every single weight
Yes,
class,
every single class.
just not just 1 or 2, but a handful of the top 8 were consistently in all 10 weight classes.
Yep. And so Missouri had, from what I understand, 2 injuries to Colby Smith and Grant Leith, who were both they were in the round of 12 and they did not wrestle. So, those 2 didn't place, didn't score that many points where, I think Missouri, if you give say Leith goes to his seed, which I believe was 3, Colby Smith was unseeded, say he goes low. They're not going to catch Ohio State, but they're going to be quite a bit closer to Ohio State.
Right, and do you know the extent of those 2 injuries, or
Nope. They're
given Coach Smith's track record, would he kind of err on the side of caution this year, or would he try and push guys through, or
Yeah, I mean,
what's typically is his approach towards handling early season injuries?
Coach Smith definitely is not going to push someone through at Vegas. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. And then especially with the new qualification system, where essentially people are graded on every single match, and that matters when we're talking automatic qualifiers. So if they take a loss or 2 because they're subpar, if they have a subpar performance, it is going to negatively affect on them. So I think coaches are less likely. And when we talk about people holding guys out of dual meets, I think that's another reason that is maybe not often discussed, because I think overall the current qualification system is the best that they've ever had. And so people don't want to complain about it because it is the best. But when you're thinking, oh shoot, I could put this guy in, but he's not quite as hurt. Maybe he's going to take 2 losses here to guys who aren't quite as good as him, and that's going to hurt his automatic qualifier status. Well, I'll just hold him out and put my backup in. And so I think that plays big time into it.
Yeah, and I think the other thing we discussed, I think a week ago, is like where you place and where you establish yourself within the national rankings. You're kind of locked in after this weekend, give or take, probably a couple of slots ahead of you or behind you. So, you don't want to compromise that either.
Yeah.
Although I don't think that's a big consideration from a lot of college coaches, but placing at this event and where it kind of establishes you for the remainder of the year is also an important component to this.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I yawned. But yeah, 100%. And we didn't really see it. We were actually going to talk. People don't know this because they don't know our behind the scenes. We were actually going to talk about last week who was going to have a huge freshman breakout performance this week, and there wasn't any freshman champions here. I guess you could say Mickey Philippi had a great tournament, but usually,
Well, Stevenson won.
Oh, damn!
Oh, you're going to continue not to give him any credit, right?
No, he's just so good. I don't think. I mean, number one, I didn't think about him being a freshman. Number 2, he's so good. Could you really consider this a breakout performance? I mean, we knew he was the best guy before this week even started.
Yeah, he was seeded number 1. There wasn't any out of all the weight classes. I think he was the only guy in the top 10 at heavyweight. So, and I think there was actually a couple of freshmen that I believe placed at this weight class.
Yeah, Zach. Well, Tate Orndorff out of Utah Valley, who's a finalist, he's a freshman, and then Zach Elam, who I think he might have lost first round at Missouri, and I watched that match, and he did not look good at all. And then he came back and won like 9 straight or something crazy to take 3rd place, and then obviously Chase Singletary, who had a really good tournament, and then he ended up, I think, he injury defaulted his last match to 6th place. So.
Yeah, he kind of rolled over his knee in I think it was the Conci semifinals. He got rolled over his knee.
Who we were just talking about.
Yeah, yeah. So for the 8 guys at 285 were freshmen that placed. So yeah, so don't want to. I didn't want to completely gloss over Gable Stevenson, but to your point, in this weight class, it was kind of expected, right?
Yeah, definitely. So let's just start. Let's start at 125, so we don't go totally out of order. I know, I have ADHD and I jump all over the place sometimes. And Matt, I think you might too, because you kind of jump around with me. So
I do.
you might also have ADHD. So let's get into 25. Definitely a good weight class. Maybe not one of the premier ones. And so you got Sebastian Rivera beating Ronnie Bresser. I think that's your number 2 and 3 ranked wrestlers currently.
Yep.
Yep, 2 and 3. And so good, really good finale there. Sebastian Rivera wins in overtime. Looking at Bresser, he kind of frustrates me, Matt, and I think he would frustrate me to coach him because his movement is so good. It's very high level. You don't see movement that good usually in wrestling. Um, but he doesn't, man, when he attacks, it feels like he has great attacks, and he just doesn't attack enough. Rivera kind of just stayed on the grind, stayed on him, and got the win there in the finals.
Yeah, I don't know if I would categorize Bresser as a streaky wrestler, but it seems like one of those guys. It always seems every single year he performs at a very high level at Las Vegas. He had a great performance last year, continued on, although you could say it was expected being the number 3 guy in the country and the number 2 seed. But yeah, he seems when he's on a roll, he's hard to stop. But then to your point, he has these lapses, or I don't know what they are, where he doesn't
Yes.
do a lot of anything, and you're like, man, this guy is so talented. If he could just keep his foot on the gas and stay focused, like I don't
Yeah.
know if I mean, I'm not saying he would beat a Spencer Lee,
Well,
but
I did beat a Spencer Lee last year,
he did.
so it's not
Yeah.
totally out of the question. And to your point, you said lapses in wrestling, and without getting too technical on the podcast. I mean, there was a few scramble in the Russell Bresser semifinal. Russell was really pressing the action in third period, and Bresser was kind of evading. And then they got in a few scrambles, and it was just like sorry, Bresser kind of stopped. He didn't keep wrestling through the scramble. He was just stopping and hoping for the stalemate. And a few times to me, it looked like that Russell was going to start improving his position, and then Bresser was able to get the stalemate. But it was just to your point, there was those lapses in wrestling that, and you know what? Honestly, that the overtime scramble in the finals where um Rivera hits that Peterson. It was like, listen, I know that position like the back of my hand, Matt. There is no way in God's green earth that Sebastian Rivera should be able to snatch Ronnie Bresser off the mat that easy from that position. And so that was definitely a lapse in judgment there also.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say that Bresser conceded there, but like you said, just a split second hesitation can be the determining factor, and it just seemed like it just seemed like he just hesitated for a split second when if he would have just kept wrestling through the situation, they could have continued in a sudden death.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's that I call it that back hook position. And when you're in Rivera's position, you got back hook in hand, which is essentially a Peterson. There's just not a lot of power there because the way the weight is there situated. But sure enough, Rivera snatched him up, turned him over, bam, there you go. Um,
And then I mean, speaking of this, long-term seating implications for the NCAA tournament. I mean, this is going to be because you gotta figure these guys, Rivera and Bresser, probably won't see each
will
other the
not see
rest
each
of the
other.
year,
Yeah, I mean,
and most likely, well, we'll see how it plays out. But Lee's probably favored over Rivera at the Big Ten tournament. So,
but
going
even that
in,
being said, Matt, unless Rivera loses to someone who's ranked lower than him, I don't really foresee if he loses to Spencer Lee, they're not going to bump him down past number 2. I
right.
mean, so yeah, to your point, they're not wrestling again, and I don't know. I guess they're Sebastian River is going. to Wait, Bresser's at Midlands, isn't he?
I
Hold on,
believe so. I need
I'm
to
looking it
check their
up.
schedule.
I love being able to search things this quickly when we're on a podcast. Okay,
Yeah, I mean, I guess my point is right now, and I know that coaches don't want to talk about this, but you're thinking at the end of the year, and you most
ooh,
likely we know
they are
who.
not at Midlands this year.
Okay. So even more important, the weight on this decision, Rivera coming up big and possibly, if things hold true to form throughout the year, it'll put Rivera for sure on the other side of Lee. You got to see how Bresser plays out, but those two potentially could be on the opposite side. I know it's way too early to talk about, but it's something
Yeah.
that you, in the back of your mind, you're thinking about as a coach, and
Yeah.
the importance of that match early in December.
Yeah, absolutely. So what 133 we got we were hoping to have Michik, Suriano, and for whatever reason, I don't know why it is. Um Michik does not show up. And so we end up with I don't want to say the shocker of the tournament. And I will be honest, Matt, I had never watched this kid wrestle. I heard his name 50 times. I never watched him wrestle till this week. I was very, very impressed with Mickey Philippi. He makes the finals against Nick Suriano. Suriano pretty much puts it on him. But man, I was impressed with Philippi the whole tournament. I think, he was one of the people that I, maybe wasn't looking at do this. And man, he looked really good.
Yeah, so Philippi was a 3-time double A champ in Pennsylvania, which a lot of those guys sometimes, as highly focused as people are on the state of PA, sometimes the double A guys kind of fall through the cracks or get overlooked for some reason. But you know, his scholastic performance, being a 3-time state champ, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Philippi started at
I
UVA,
think he went to
right?
UVA first and then transferred back to Pittsburgh. And for on that topic, man, it sure seems like Keith Gavin's doing a great job, but I think he's only in his second year at Pitt. But you got Philippi, you got the guy at 57, you got Bonacorsi look good, the heavyweight look good. So all in all, Pitt is making some significant improvements from where they were a few years ago.
Yeah, but on an individual level, back to Philippi, like I think the people that knew of him, knew his potential, knew what he's capable of. Sometimes I think when these kids transfer institutions, they also, as much as we talk about the high profile transfers, we don't give as much attention to maybe the lower profile transfers. But it seems like he made a good move. Obviously, Keith Gavin, it's unbelievable wrestling mind, unbelievable technician, and what Philippi did. Wow,
He was
beat
he was like a
Slezak.
damn backpack in the semi. I know they call Lezak the backpack, but he was like a backpack in that semifinal on Luke Pletcher.
Yeah,
I mean, wow, he rode the crap out of him. The other thing there is that Ernesti wrestled Suriano really, really tough. I don't know if you got to catch that match, but it was a 3-2 match. Ernesti ended up giving up just one takedown, and really he got a penalty point in the first period. He got an escape in the second period. Then he got taken down. So if he was able to get that escape at the end of the second, it's a 3-3 match, and they're going into overtime. So I've watched Ernesti for a long time. I actually thought, sometimes he doesn't move his feet that well, and I thought Suriano was going to be a bad matchup for him, but it actually turned out the other way. Where Ernesti, he kind of gave Suriano fits.
no, he did. I mean, arguably, probably Suriano's closest match of the tournament. Um, I thought Ernesti looked big. He looked like a
Yeah, he
big 33.
Yeah, I think Missouri has that, and I know Colby Smith is pulling pretty hard to Big 25, and it's it stems from Ironman at 41. Obviously, they have Leith at 49, so it's not like, and Ironman's not big for 41, but then Ernesti I think would ideally be a 41, but sometimes when the team, that's how the team is, and you have to kind of work around it, right?
Yep, yep. So
Uh,
speaking of the champ, I was actually really surprised. Isn't the word? I was impressed with Suriano. I mean, as impressed as you can be with the guy that was coming off a national. He was a national finalist last year, but there's always those questions. How are you going to transition up a weight class? I think he looked fully sized at 133. I
yeah.
actually think I thought he was opening up more than I saw him open up in the past.
In the finals, he looked great in the finals for as good as we were saying Philippi looked before the finals, Suriano looked awesome in the finals, kind of tore him up a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, he's so efficient in his conversions. I mean, when he
Yes.
gets to your leg, he gets to his finishes quick. I mean,
Yeah.
he's efficient. A lot of times he gets up and through your body. He gets your feet, off the mat, which takes away a lot of your defensive opportunities. And he goes right into he transitions beautifully into a Turk off
Yeah.
the majority of his takedowns, which is one of those things that I think a lot of people focus on, but I think it's one of those, areas, transitioning from the takedown into the turn. He does a fantastic job of that.
Yeah, Matt, I would agree 100% with what you just said there, and that's I man, there might not be a more efficient finisher in college wrestling than Nick Suriano. He is so good when he gets the legs and getting up and through people. It's just, and you don't see that. I mean, yesterday I was talking about how infrequently that happens and how Iowa struggles with that. But Suriano is one of the very few guys in college wrestling who's able to get up and through people. It seems like almost every time he's just so good in those positions.
Yeah, and I think that's to your point. I mean, that's just got to be a concerted effort every single day, not when it's given to you. Like he forces you into that position. He's going to get his head driving up and through your back. He's going to drive you to your far leg and be able to get you in the air. And I think what's lost on a lot of people, like he's not flashy by any means,
No.
Suriano, but he is so good. He is technically so sound in every position. I don't know, is there a weakness that you could pull out if you looked at Suriano and had a game plan for him? Like what's a hole in his game? Because I don't see a whole
I
lot.
don't think I mean, he's good on bottom, I don't think he's great. I don't think he's great in the scrambles. Now, because he's one of the most efficient finishers, it's very hard to get him into the scrambles, but I think and so now you look at, okay, who's ranked number 1 at that weight class, and it's Seth Gross, and so that's why I think that's so intriguing of a matchup is because I do think there's a possibility that Seth Gross could definitely ride Nick Suriano. And, after the way that, Ernesti kinda shut him down on his feet, I could see Seth Gross doing something very similar. And so, those are kind of 2 areas where I don't think Nick Suriano's he's great in, but obviously like I said, he makes up for it. So,
So could you see possibly some similarities in a style matchup between Suriano and Gross and what we saw at 141 between McKenna and Ironman?
yeah, yeah.
In
I
in
think I
in the
well,
way
I
that
think I would actually say Ironman's less disciplined than, who am I talking about? Oh, than Seth Gross.
Gross.
I was blank,
Yeah.
sorry. You know who else well, you know who I was you kinda you tricked me because who I was thinking about taking it to was I was actually thinking about that Suriano Dayton Fix match, from Who's Number One that went like 30 minutes because both guys are so disciplined positionally, um, that they just couldn't get the upper hand. Did you end up did you ever watch that match, Matt?
I did watch that match.
Oh,
It
it was
was
so crazy.
absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, obviously, and I want to see how Dayton Fix. We were talking about Suriano Gross. I want to see how Dayton Fix mixes in there. Also, to your question, yeah, I man, this matchup it frustrates the heck out of me every single time. Uh,
At 141,
McKenna
McKenna.
Ironman. Yeah, Ironman's just not quite disciplined enough for Joey McKenna, and Joey McKenna's like uber disciplined, which I think can carry over to the and I've said this last year, being boring. I mean, he's almost so disciplined it's boring. And Ironman just falls into those traps every single time, and he struggles getting his own offense. So um I would like to see Ironman win that match, but I would have a hard time ever betting on Jaden beating Joey McKenna because McKenna's just so disciplined in his positions and what he needs to do, and then Ironman gives him those openings.
And similar to Suriano, I mean, McKenna's he's not flashy by any means, but he's so fundamentally sound in every area. And the way he got through his finishes so quick on Ironman didn't even have a chance to introduce any scrambles into his
Yep.
defense because I mean you got to give that to the discipline of McKenna, that he was so precise with his technique, so precise with his finishes, that he didn't even open up an opportunity for
No.
Ironman to breathe, or even have, he didn't really sniff an opportunity throughout the entire match.
100%. It is. It's so Tommy taunts me on this one because Tommy, he knows that he knows. Well, we obviously talked about it. He knows this matchup gets to me. It drives me crazy, and so he taunts me about it. Uh,
I
and
mean, outside of just tightening up his execution, what other pointers would you give to Ironman
well,
when you're trying
I
to
mean,
break down McKenna?
well, if you want to go big, you want to go big picture, or you want to go small picture? Because if you're going big picture, Ironman's got to be able to get some of his own offense going. I mean, and that's not something he does super well. Um, you know, he often relies on other people's pressure for the slide by and that type and duck under type stuff that he does, and then he gets a lot of offense off other people shooting. Obviously, he's a great top wrestler, so he scores a lot of points there. And he's also creative bottom, so he scores points there. But when McKenna is so disciplined in his positioning that he makes that really difficult. So if number one, I'm saying kind of big picture, Ironman needs to get some more of his own offense to beat people like that. And if I'm saying small picture, how do we just beat Joey McKenna right now with the skill set he has? He has to become uber disciplined and make it a one takedown match. And that is what Jaden Ironman hates. He hates a one takedown match. He doesn't want he wants it to be wild and crazy and not a one takedown match. But if you're going to beat Joey McKenna right now, you have to be uber disciplined and you have to win that one takedown. And
Right.
so
So
that's
let me ask you this: what if this is something that I would try and introduce occasionally? I think what sets him apart from McKenna right now, especially in the matches that they've wrestled previously, he's always waited for McKenna to initiate wrestling action. And
yes.
if you wait for McKenna to initiate wrestling action, he's probably going to get to the finish so quick that as was apparent in this match, he's not going to give you an opportunity to scramble or defend. But what would you suggest that Ironman actually initiates wrestling action? Like not shooting to shoot, but
Yes.
off of that, creating wrestling action where it actually opens up opportunities for his
Well,
scrambling.
no, kind of opposite. I would say you kind of have to play a more disciplined game right now with the current skill sets against Joey McKenna. You play a more disciplined game to where Joey McKenna's sitting in his stance in his perfect positioning, and he's saying, "I know Jaden Ironman's going to make a couple mistakes, and I know I'm going to score off them." Right? That's what's stuck in his head, and sure enough, that's what happens just about every single time. And so, if Jaden
But
changes that
but
and doesn't give those opportunities that Joey is sure are going to happen, he's sure they're going to happen. And now he changes that and he doesn't allow those things to happen. I think that's where you can change the narrative right there.
you really think so? Because
Absolutely.
I tend to think that McKenna's so disciplined, like he'll beat you in a staring match. Like you can stare him down. You can stare him down 7 minutes. He's like, okay,
Well, then
we'll go
then
into
it goes to
we'll go over to overtime and sudden death,
but then if it goes
which maybe gives Ironman a chance, right, to
yeah,
ride him out.
if it goes to
Yeah.
overtime rideout, if you're saying just overtime rideouts, man, I think I favor Jaden Ironman there. I think he's got way more ways to escape and he's got way more ways to ride if you're just talking about 1 30-second go.
So
So
you would go actually one layer deeper than just a one takedown match. You would actually,
if I have to, if he
hey, have the discipline, wrestle an overtime match.
yeah.
Take your chances,
If he
right?
has to, and that's kind of the antithesis of what I want to happen. That's the antithesis of what Jaden Ironman wants to happen. And that's why kind of like McKenna's style frustrates the crap out of me. But if you're breaking it down to something as small as how do I win this one match right now? I don't have another year to build more skills. I don't have another 3 months to build more skills. I got to win this match right now. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I mean, he's such a gunslinger, and that's what I love about Ironman when I wrestle him. Like he's not afraid of any position, and he's not afraid to wrestle through any position. But it's kind of like, it's like the dichotomy is such, like, can he actually do that? Can he actually get to the point where for this 7 minute period or possibly 8 or 9 minutes, like I have to completely deviate from what my game plan is? This is the one guy, because there's probably every other guy at 141. if Ironman says, "Hey, bring your best, I'm going to bring my best," and I think I like my chances. But this McKenna is probably the one guy where he's like, I can't, if I bring my best game like I currently do, this is the guy that's going to kind of pick me apart. So
Yeah.
I have to change it up.
Well, I think if you look long term, Matt, I think that's like I said. I think if you look small picture, big picture, right? Small picture is probably what he has to do. Big picture, Jade Ironman needs to get so good at one or two leg attacks and pressuring people that they don't have that option to do what Joey McKenna does. They have to wrestle him. And
Right.
that's kind of where I think he needs to get he's gonna shoot so many times and not get not stupid shots, good shots that Joey McKenna's gonna hit for stalling. And now Joey McKenna has to open up. And now Joey McKenna's wrestling the match that Jaden Ironman wants him to wrestle. I think that's where you would need to go. That
No,
makes sense.
I agree.
Long
No,
obviously
no.
we're looking long term.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So kind of glossing over the rest of the weight class. Obviously, in the third and fourth place match, two big performances by two guys just ranked inside the top 20, and Store and Don Dimas.
Now they're way up because they got bumped. Store got bumped from 19 to 8, and Demas, well, I guess Demas went 15 to 13. So that's not a huge bump, but yes, huge performances by those guys. I mean, Store gave Ironman a hell of a match. In the what was it, quarters maybe?
Yeah. Yes, the quarters.
And Store beat Chad Red in the round of 16, All-American Chad Red in the round of 16. You were talking about how tough the round of 16 was just, and that was a crazy match. And really, Store was really bringing the pressure to Chad Red. I thought he had other opportunities to score before he beat him in overtime, and I thought he looked really good in that match as well.
Yep.
And man,
so
Chad Red out early. Chad Red was out in. I'm trying to look. Man, this is like
Chad
4
seems
rounds
to
from placing or 3 rounds from placing. He lost to I don't even you might know who this guy is because you coached at Clarion. Taylor Orts. Have you ever heard of him?
No, that was after my time.
Okay.
I'm not really familiar with him, but Chad Red with some uneven performances the first 6 weeks of the season.
Yep.
I'm sure he'll straighten it out. He's phenomenally talented. So
yeah, the other guy I was curious, Matt, to see what happened. This guy, Matt Findlay, who was having a really good season from Utah Valley, he forfeited out in that same round, and I don't know if it was an injury or what happened to him. But I wanted to see some more of him and how he was going to perform. And because he lost on the front side, he lost to he forfeited on the front side to Sam Turner, so he forfeited on both sides. So it's some type of injury there. I would like to see how he would have done had he been able to go the full tournament too.
Because he's been wrestling really good.
Yep.
To open up the season.
Yep.
So
he beat Tristan Moran and Chad Red.
Yep. So on to 149, probably.
Oh, this is awesome.
The feature match of the tournament, probably the one. If there was one match going in outside of probably, you could probably say at 133, Mychik, Suriano, right? But with him not entering the tournament, I would think the Ashnault Jordan matchup was the one that people were kind of circling as the premier match of the tournament.
Yeah, I'll get down with that. I can get down with that for sure. Absolutely. So it did not disappoint. It was a great match. I guess for me it's the tale of two matches, right? Micah Jordan looks great in the last 2 periods ish. Anthony Ashnault he got 2 turns. He went out to a 10-0 lead in the first 2 minutes of the match, Matt. I mean, that's to your point, that's a 1 versus 2 match, I believe. No, I'm sorry. Kolodnik's 1, Ashnault's 2.
2 versus 3.
2 versus 3.
Yeah.
Sorry. So 10-0 lead right away on the power of 2 tilts. Looked great on top, but then he kind of shut down, and Micah Jordan was bringing the heat on him. So I didn't like to see that part. I don't know if it was just like, hey, let's just hang on for the win here, or I don't really know.
Yeah. So what's your takeaways from that? Because if you're both guys, each guy, if in the proper context, can say, yeah, I won this match, but I can't feel too great about it, or I lost this match and I can't feel too bad about it.
Well, I think it's pretty simple, and I think this, unfortunately, For me, I said big picture, little picture, right, Matt? But these guys they're only looking at little pictures because they're seniors in high school, right? Are seniors in high school. They're seniors in college. They don't have more years. They got to do it now. Micah Jordan struggled on bottom, has always struggled on bottom. That's going to be hard to change in the next 3 months. Anthony Ashnall, if he's out of shape, man, it ain't that hard to get in shape. It's going to take him 2-3 weeks. And if he really puts the time in, he's going to get in shape. Now, if he doesn't want to get in shape, he's not going to be in shape. But if he says, man, that was terrible, I need to get in shape, he could do it in a couple weeks. So I think the negative there is really easier to change for Ashnault than it is for Jordan, unfortunately.
But if I'm Jordan, the way he was getting to his leg attacks and finishing them, although obviously he wasn't getting high level resistance from Ashnault, I
Yeah.
don't think the last 3 minutes of the match.
Yes.
But you can't chalk them up as meaningless, that he just gave the takedowns away. So
You're right.
if I'm Micah, I'm like, hey, I gotta get on the hunt earlier. I gotta push my pace. I gotta get to the leg attacks earlier. And if I do that, maybe I can create a moment of separation myself, in the match, as opposed to trying battling back and giving up that early takedown.
But
And
aren't you saying though? Aren't you also saying, Matt, that hey, if I'm Mike, if I give up one takedown, I'm kind of in trouble here because Matt, those weren't like really tricky, unique, fluky turns. That was I'm gonna grab a wrist, I'm gonna turn you. I mean, I feel like if that match happens again, there's probably a decent chance that Anthony Ashnall tilts Micah Jordan at least once.
Yeah, but Ashnault's point, or Ashnault's tilts on top, it's not like he's got some trick. I mean, it was a
That's
cross
that's
wrist. It
what I'm
was
saying.
a tight waist. So I mean,
Yeah.
you can defend those. I mean,
But no,
even
listen,
though
but here's the problem.
even
No,
even
Matt.
though
Here's the problem.
no, even though he didn't have
You
an
can just
answer there, like you can block a wrist off. You can knee slide through. You can do different
no, no,
things
no,
to
Matt,
kind of.
Matt. But that's not the problem. Is this Michael Jordan's 22 or 23 years old, and to your point, pretty much every 10-year-old in my program knows how to defend that, right? It's not hard. It's not like Michael Jordan said, "Oh my God, I don't know what he did," and then he goes and watches film and he says, "Oh, okay, duh, I shouldn't do that again." It's like Michael Jordan knows how to defend this. He's probably known how to defend this for the last 15 years, and he still didn't defend it. For me, that's the issue.
Yeah, I would choose to believe, like, I don't know. We'll see, but I'd venture to say that we don't see Ashnault turning Jordan again the rest of the year.
Really?
That's that's
If they wrestle
that's where
again,
my
I'll
money.
bet you 50 push-ups on it.
Okay, I better start working on my push-ups right now. I think I probably got one set of 25, but you got it.
We can't shake hands, but this is a virtual shaking of hands. If they wrestle again, 50 push-ups on the line, Anthony Ashnault turns Michael Jordan. Wait, I need a caveat if he gets on top.
If he gets a well, come on.
No, that's fair. If he doesn't get on chop, how's he going to turn him? That's fair.
Okay,
That's fair.
I'll spot you that. If he
Okay.
gets on top, my money's on Jordan that he won't get turned the rest of
Okay.
the year
All right.
by Ashnault.
All right. Well, I would hope that you are right. So they will possibly wrestle. I don't know if they have a duel. I'm gonna check this, right? Because out of state wrestling. Okay. They definitely have the Big Ten championships. They definitely have the NCAAs, which I think it's likely we would see them wrestle at least at one of those. Do they have a dual meet? They do not. They
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 should.
do
They
not. They do
they
not.
don't.
No, they don't.
I know they're on the same half of the conference, but you kind of rotate
Yep.
in and out of the six teams on your side. You rotate, you wrestle forward and rotate in and out two of them. So yeah, this is must be the year that they cycle out. But outside of the fact, do either one of these guys see Kaladzic throughout the year? I mean, Kaladzic they're traditionally at Midlands.
Well,
Is
Ohio State
is
is not at Midlands. Ohio State is at no more tournaments this year. They just have like 12 duels and that's it.
okay.
One, two, three.
So is Rutgers at Midlands? I know they have been in the past. I don't know if they're there this year or not, though.
Okay, I am looking them up. I will tell you in about 6 seconds. Rutgers is not at man, Midlands is gonna be weak. I think every team we've looked up so far, Matt, is not going to
Yeah.
Midlands. Damn.
So so it looks like if Kaladzic can hold serve the rest of the year, he would probably lock up the number 1 seed at the NCAA tournament, which
Oh,
puts
I lied. Princeton Rutgers duel, February 3rd, at Princeton.
okay, so that's a big one
That's a
to
big
look
one.
for.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's 1 versus 3. I mean, after watching these guys, all 3 of these guys, I man, I did Matt Kolodzik did not look great to me in those couple matches, and maybe he's one of those guys that wins every match by a point or 2, but I think right now at this point, I would try to lean towards, Jordan and Ashnault over Kolodzik, and I
Yeah,
obviously
I mean, Kaladzic is similar to Suriano and McKenna in the fact, like, he's not gonna blow you away. You're not gonna watch this guy and like, "Holy heck, look at the skill set on this guy," but he's highly disciplined, he's highly technical, and he's very proficient in all 3 areas. So, I mean, if you're just doing a simple eye test, I could see where you would be looking at Ashnault and Jordan and saying, "Yeah, these guys are, probably if you had to pick the number 1 and 2 guys." But yeah, Kaladzic he's very good, very disciplined in all 3 areas. So, yeah, it should be fun to see how this plays out.
absolutely. So, obviously, we said Leith, who was the number 4, he loses a 3-2 match to Brock Zackel. It was a 1 takedown match, and then Leith kind of chased most of the 3rd period and couldn't get anything going. Um, and besides that, we had a whole bunch of big matchups here. We had Micah Jordan over kind of Austin O'Connor, and O'Connor's number 7, and then he put it on Brock Zackrell. That was a really impressive performance from Micah Jordan there. So he beats number 5 and number 7 in the country right there. So he really good tournament because he wrestled 3 of the top 8 guys in the country right there in one tournament. He got how many takedowns? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He got 8 takedowns versus Brock Zackrell. That's freaking
Yeah, he
impressive.
was racking them up.
Really impressive. And then on the other side, you had Fine Silver, who's ranked number 8 over Max Thompson, who's a former All-American. And then Austin O'Connor wrestles all the way back and takes 3rd place, beating Zackrell. So, man, that was a really, really, really good bracket. Kind of one of those where, to your point, it was the depth of the ranked guys, right? They had number 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11, 12, all at that, that's like 8 of the top 12 that were there at that tournament. Huge, tough bracket.
Yeah, arguably the deepest weight class in the tournament.
So, Matt, our time is almost up. I think you and I are going to have to find a time to come back to do a 3rd podcast this week, which we've never done a 3rd podcast this week, but I think you and I
we didn't even get to half the weight classes.
We got 6 weight classes left. So, we got to come back. We had knocked that out. So, I hope all
you've eliminated one because you've already said you don't really feel like talking about Gable Stevenson.
No,
so maybe
I have some very good talking points about Gable. I have some very interesting questions. I watch this man very closely, and I am very, very interested in him. So we will definitely, absolutely talk about him when we come back. So you got anything else to wrap this one up?
No, let's just figure out a time where we can squeeze one more episode in this week.
All right, guys, we'll be back with a 3rd episode this week, and I will talk to you all later.